Greetings, beloved Princeton United Methodist Church community. I'm Pastor Jenny, and I am reading today from 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 23. But we proclaim Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to the Gentiles. This is the word of life. Thanks be to God. You know, in the spring, at the end of confirmation, we were having this celebration luncheon, and Pastor Allie, she was one of our confirmation mentors. She's also a pastor in the United Methodist Church, and she's studying, getting her PhD right now, and part of our congregation. And she was talking about some of what confirmation means to her, and I loved how she talked about us choosing the story, claiming the story of Jesus Christ, his life, his death, his resurrection, that this is our story. And that when we are confirmed, when we're baptized, when we join a church, when we reaffirm our faith, we continue to choose this story as the story that we wrestle with for the rest of our lives. I love that image. Adam Hamilton is another United Methodist clergy person, and he says it this way. He says that Jesus' life, death, and resurrection is our defining story. It is our story. And what I like about Allie's way of talking about it is that it doesn't mean that we understand it all, that we have conquered it, that we have completely absorbed it or understood it, or that we agree with it, or that all these things, we haven't mastered it, but we wrestle with it. It is a story that continues to come to life in new ways for us. It's a story that continues to bring life to us. It's a story that defines us, that it shapes us, and we keep coming back to it with our questions, with Scripture, with the things that we experience in this world. All these experiences that we have are both informed by that story, right? We go out into the world shaped by that story. We have these experiences, and then we come back to that story with those experiences. We let that story shape us, grow us, reflect who we are. We let it be a mirror for us. It shapes us, it changes us, and everything grows from it while we're wrestling with it, while we're trying to make sense of it. It's a beautiful kind of image. As we continue to talk about living against the grain, I invite us to claim again this story as the story that we wrestle with, the story that we wrestle with for our lives, for the rest of our lives, the story that defines us, a story that we claim even when we aren't quite sure what that means, a story that is a strange story, a story that doesn't make sense all the time, even to us, but especially that world out there. This passage goes on to talk about how God chooses things like weakness, foolishness, that chooses what is low, chooses things that are not. See, this doesn't make sense in our world. Our world tends to choose things that are high, chooses things that are powerful in a mighty sort of way, chooses wealth, chooses status and power. And Jesus' life, death, and resurrection invite us into the kingdom where those values are turned inside out and upside down. It doesn't make sense by our world standards. And yet, this is the story that we claim. This is the story that we wrestle with. This is the story that shapes and defines us, and it's not going to make sense as we move through this world. And if we're normal people, we're going to feel that tension sometimes. It's going to be tempting to have this way that we want to make harmony with the world. We want to fit in. We want people to not think us to be weird or different. We want to fit in, and that's such a human thing in us too. But this is also why we have church, why we have each other, why we have other people around us who claim this story, who wrestle with this story together, who are defined by this story, so that we can find this strength and to find a place where we are in harmony. And that doesn't mean that we all agree on everything all the time, right? That's a different thing. Harmony, you can have different notes, right? And still be in harmony with one another. So I invite us to think about this, to ponder it again. What does it mean for you to claim this story as our fundamental defining story? One to wrestle with, not just one to agree and check off and say, yep, that's my story, but one to continue to dig into, to let it do its work in us, and to let it define who we are everywhere, in how we interact, how we behave, how we vote, how we experience relationships with one another, how we offer forgiveness and compassion. It is such a big thing to do, and I wonder how you have experienced this part of things in your life, how you might be invited to claim it again, how you find yourself both wrestling with the story itself, and also how we might find ourselves living against the grain with the world as we claim this story. This is multi-layered, I know. So friends, we'll continue to talk about going against the grain over these next couple of weeks, and you can probably hear some children here. But I do want to invite you to a couple things. One is that it's not too late to join one of our discipleship groups that's happening this fall. We have several new long-term growth groups that'll be meeting weekly over the course of this program year. We have a short-term group that meets for 6 weeks. There'll be another one of those. There are a couple more short-term groups through the year. Contemporary Issues is also meeting. We have Monday morning Bible study. We have some different groups that you are welcome to join. Find one that is right for you, and I invite you to join in. You can talk to Pastor Taylor if you would like to find out more information. We also have a sign-up sheet which lists the name of the group leaders, and you can talk to them as well. I'm one of those group leaders. Feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to share more. I also want to invite you to our fellowship luncheon. It's happening on October 1st. Now, October 1st is World Communion Sunday. This is a communion Sunday. We always are in communion with the world, with Christians around the world, but this is a day that we particularly celebrate that. If you are somebody who speaks a different language and would like to bring that language into our worship service, please let me know. We'd love to have that. We also will be welcoming the Kingston congregation into worship with us. So that day, we're having a joint worship service at Princeton UMC, our normal time. Nothing changes for you exactly, but we do hope that you'll be on the lookout for people from Kingston that day. And then we'll stay together after church, if you're in person with us, for a fellowship luncheon. A potluck, this is a thing that you can bring your special dish, something from your background, your culture. Maybe it's just a favorite dish that you love to make. That's fine. Whatever it is, we welcome it. This congregation makes really good food, and so I hope you'll bring something to contribute and stay after service. I also want to note that this is our first fellowship luncheon since COVID. Oh my goodness, amazing. We've had some smaller little gatherings here and there to eat together, but this is our first church-wide fellowship luncheon at the church since COVID. So it's a milestone, and I hope you'll come and celebrate and to be part of the delicious fellowship together. You can find out lots of other information in the course of this email, and I look forward to seeing you, connecting with you very soon. Remember, friends, that it is always a pleasure and privilege for me to be on this journey with you as we claim this story of Christ, his life, death, and resurrection, Christ crucified, together, as we wrestle with it, as we struggle with it, as we celebrate it, respond joyfully to it. What a privilege that is for me. Remember that you are enough because God is enough. Remember that you were created for joy. Thanks be to God for that. See you soon.